Welcome back to episode 2 of The Pod of Many Things, the chill podcast where we talk anything and everything tabletop RPG. My name's Leon, and once again I'm joined by the fabulous Troy.
Hello.
And Addison.
You alright? How you doing?
If you were one of the very few people who listened to episode 1 before this one was released, I think we all really just want to take a moment to say a huge heartfelt thank you for your feedback, don't we, guys?
Yes, big thanks. We passed the 100 view mark on the video. We are so buzzed about that.
Yeah, I was expecting like 10% of that.
Yeah. Sat here waiting for like maybe 15 views. Like, woo!
I remember us like talking like, how many people do you think we'll reach? And it was like, oh, maybe 40 at a push. And then we're no, but it is really nice to know that people have enjoyed it. They've given us feedback.
It's very humbling.
Yeah, definitely. And like 100 people's 100 people. Like,
oh yeah,
yeah, it's a lot of people.
That's nuts. Considering we're just 3 blokes from pretty much the arse end of nowhere in England,
Whew.
and now we're like doing this now, and we're enjoying it, and hopefully we can.
Yeah, we were literally bored one day and decided, fuck it, let's do a podcast. And here we are recording episode 2.
Yeah,
and it's going well so far. We've had a few technical issues along the way, but you know, we sorted it out. Hopefully,
fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Touch wood.
So, Leon, what the hell is episode 2?
What the hell is episode 2? Ah, yes. Thank you for the segue, which I obviously noticed. Okay, last week's theme was all about our own firsts in the world of D&D and tabletop RPGs. This time, we want to give the budding DMs and players out there a few tips, tricks, and stories on how to prepare for your games. So this is the first in a 2-part theme. Preparation. This week we're going to be talking about how we prep as DMs. Then next week we're going to share our stories and give advice on character creation. I want to begin by asking you guys an incredibly important question. What I want you to do, if you could sum up the role of a dungeon master or a game master, whichever one you call it, in one word, what would that word be? Then, after, what we'll do is we'll discuss and justify our choices, maybe even come to a consensus. Who wants to go first?
One word: facilitator. Facilitator is my word.
I can tell you work in a school.
Facilitator. That's a good one. Damn. One word. Excited.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Leon?
My one word is going to be banker.
When do we start playing Monopoly? Okay, I feel as if banker needs the first explanation.
Yeah. Please.
Okay. My personal view of the Dungeon Master, Game Master, I'll just stick to Dungeon Master, is that they are no more important than anybody else at the table. They are there to facilitate the rules. They are just another player, but they have a different set of rules that they're playing to. Similar to the banker in Monopoly.
Okay. So there is a Monopoly reference in there. All right.
There is, yes.
So basically, their rules, almost like resource management rather than just
not really resource management. You know, everybody's playing the same game. They just have a different role in that game.
Right. So it's kind of like the idea that the players are playing the game, and then every now and then they turn to you and go, "Hey, what about this?"
Yeah. Essentially, in a nutshell.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, mine's pretty self-explanatory. Like, excited. I'm just a very easily excitable DM. Like, as soon as any of my players start doing something that I get hyped about, I'm on that train, and I'm like, let's do it. Let's go. I love my combat. I love my role play. All of that good stuff. So I just get very buzzed.
Yeah, I think it's important for the DM to be buzzed because it kind of sets the tone And if you've got a very miserable DM, then everybody else at the table is going to be quite miserable, and it's not going to be an engaging gaming experience. So yeah, I would agree with excited. I like that.
Yeah, definitely. Like, there's nothing worse than looking across the table at a point where you're like, man, this is epic, and then looking at your DM's face, and they're just like stone faced, and you're like, oh, have I done something wrong? Like, but yeah.
So how about yours, Edison? Your word was facilitator. You've got the most measured word for DM, so take it away.
So yeah, I suppose it's because I'm used to that word in terms of like my profession as well. So like, I think the DM's thing is to facilitate the table with not just the rules but opportunities. So you need to give your players, as a DM, the opportunity to do what they want, like, as long as it doesn't break the game or break the rules. A bit like how kind of feeds into what you two have said previously. Like, yeah, you've got a different set of rules or a different role that you also have to follow, but you're doing this with people. And the difference between like a facilitator and a leader is that idea of power. Like, as a DM, I have nothing without the players around me enjoying themselves and having fun and feeding my narrative. So I have to facilitate opportunities for them to do that. I'm not leading them anywhere. I'm going, right, here's what I've prepared. Have at it, and we'll see where we go. Rather than...
I would agree.
Rather than just being there like, you're going to do this, so you need to make A choice, and then B choice, and then get to D choice through C choice. Like, because I...
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had DMs that do try to lead and don't let you do what you want to do. If they haven't prepared for it, then they're not going to do anything about it. And every time I've had a DM like that, the game has absolutely sucked. I 100% agree that the DM is there to, what was the word that you used? Facilitate, yes, rather than lead.
Because also as well, you've got to remember that D&D, at the base of it, is like a power fantasy. Like, I get to cast Fireball, right?
All right, wizard, calm it down.
Let me. Like, don't, like, because I've had one experience where, like, they were like, "This is gritty realism. I'm Batman," and it was like, could you do that in real life? Was his question, and I'm like, dude, there are dragons on the other side of that door. Like, don't talk to me about what I can do in real life right now. Like, what?
Yeah, D&D is not Sims.
Yeah. So like, I think being able to facilitate that and help people achieve that, like, power fantasy and do cool stuff, especially at a time like we're doing now with the lockdown and thing, it's good for them. Like, how many times have you ever said to your mates who have been in your D&D game or anything, do you remember that time where my character, the sentence you actually say is, do you remember that time when I...
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So many times.
Yeah. It's not, do you remember when my character A did this? It's, do you remember when I did this and you did this and rah. So you've got to facilitate that. You've got to let them have that imagination. So that's why I would go with facilitator.
Yep.
Damn it,
I like
want
that.
to steal your word now. I want to facilitate Addison.
But I'm not gonna lie, Troy. Like, excited is also like a big one, because I like you were saying and Leon was saying, like, you've got to also facilitate the tone. Like, if you're there bored out your bonds, telling everybody like, oh yeah, I'm not really feeling it, how are you expecting them to have a good time? Like,
this is a very good point. Yeah.
So
yeah,
like,
I mean, the whole point, the whole reason we do it is to have a good time. We're not doing it to sit at a table and be miserable with each other. We're doing it to get away from the things that make us miserable.
Yes,
exactly.
100%. Yeah, I don't play D&D to become miserable unless, like, the story's going that way.
Yeah.
Unless you're the edgiest warlock ever.
Yeah, unless you're playing that character.
So yeah.
But most of the time, I'm playing it to have fun. So.
And the next part of that question was, can we come up with a consensus? I think we've pretty much come up with a consensus there, haven't we? We're all in agreement. None of us are leaders. We're all facilitators and bankers, and excited facilitating bankers.
So we are excited
Yes.
facilitating bankers. I like it.
Yes.
That's
So we're all Monopoly men.
We need to put that on a t-shirt.
That's the Pod of Many Things merch right there.
Yeah. Watch this space.
Sizes extra small to extra large.
Yeah, any t-shirt designers out there, get in touch,
So
that's a discussion for later anyway. Yeah, I think we've come to a consensus on that. We know what a DM is. We know what our own individual idea of a DM is, and it's similar across all three of us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So let's go back to the theme of this episode. So preparation as a DM prep. I'm going to start with a question. I already know what your answers are to this question, but your answers are going to be different to my question. Are you a DM who runs modules or homebrew? I'll go first because your answers are going to be different to mine.
Yep, go for it.
I'm a DM that uses modules, and I can justify why. I won't do that now. I'll let you answer the question first.
I mean, I mentioned in the previous episode that I do homebrew, and my first ever experience DMing was literally that. And I don't think I've actually run a module even to this day. So that's where I am.
I will admit I kind of cheat. So I'll use homebrew. I'll homebrew like my own adventure and whatnot, but I might use like campaign settings, source books from Wizards. So like for example, you guys said in the last episode that I was doing a Wildmount campaign from Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, but I'm not using any of their adventure hooks or anything. I'm using my own stuff.
Makes sense.
So, but if I wanted to, if I was presented like you either have to run a module and everything inside it, or you have to completely homebrew everything, I think I would lean more towards the homebrew everything side.
But it's interesting because we've sort of got this spectrum, haven't we? Where it's like, Leon, you run modules. Addison, you sort of use modules as inspiration, but then homebrew, and then there's me that just does everything from scratch.
We literally went left, middle, and right in the political spectrum.
Yeah.
Well, good. We're covering all the bases. I can justify why I use modules.
I really want to hear this. Yeah, I do.
Okay. The first reason is time. It takes a heck of a lot of time to homebrew your own, not just your own world, but missions, NPCs, all of that stuff. It takes a heck of a lot of time, and I have plenty of respect for people that do homebrew that stuff because I know how much I've tried it before and I know how much time that takes. Yep. I'm going to be 30 years old this year. I've got a lot going on. I just don't have time to do homebrew.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Don't have time. It's that simple. Yeah. The second reason is every time I've tried to homebrew, a book has come out that has caught my imagination, and I thought, wait, you know what? That's better than what I was thinking of doing. Good example of this. I once started a campaign of Princes of the Apocalypse. Maybe did 3-4 sessions before it kind of petered out because people would being a bit unreliable, and that wasn't a very good campaign in my opinion. The story wasn't very engaging, and I just wasn't feeling it. So I started working on my own homebrew thing, but then a book came out, Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and watching the YouTube videos, reading articles about it, I was thinking, you know what, I would much rather play this than the idea that I had, so I'm going to play this. So bought the book, read the whole thing, thought, wow, this is amazing. Got a group together, played it, loved it, it's fantastic. Then when I finished that, I thought, you know what? I'm going to homebrew my own setting this time. It's going to be fantastic. And then Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus came out, and I was like, wait, what? Mad Max in Hell? You know what?
Yeah, Mad Max in Hell.
This is way better. This is way better. I'm going to do this instead. So that's why I keep doing homebrew. That's why I keep doing modules, not homebrew. Every time I try and do my homebrew, something else comes up that's just way better.
Oh, yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, to be fair, there are some fantastically talented writers in Wizards. Like, hot damn, some of those modules are really well done. So I do not blame you for looking at it and going like, yeah, I'm going to use that instead because that's pretty damn good.
Well, even the throwaway
I was. Sorry.
Even
I
the
was
throwaway
planning.
stuff.
One of us needs to go. You go
Yeah.
first.
Okay. Even the throwaway stuff in like so for example, the Ghost of Saltmarsh, you've got those like throwaway little adventures, like missions, pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah, I
That's
know
all
what
they are.
Yeah, the whole thing is just a collection of random
Little-
missions, which is
yeah.
loosely connected by a very thin narrative.
Yeah.
But the idea is that you can take a mission and put it into your campaign.
Exactly, but like even those are good, so I can understand why you would use them. Like,
Some of them are good.
yeah,
I'm currently DMing that. I'm not entirely digging it, but that's a story for another time.
fair enough.
Well, I guess we're moving along the spectrum here, so let's go to the middle of the fence, Addison.
Addison, yes.
So,
Little bit of module, little bit of homebrew.
Yeah.
So the thing, I think Leon's thing of time is the most accurate, because like, if I'm creating something, and as a writer, like, just naturally, it's something I've always done since I was like a kid. Yeah, if you get me to like homebrew something, there is detail. It looks like one of those movie conspiracy board things with like red threads and like like words like, oh, this word is really important because, so like in terms of time, homebrewing is like extensive for me. Like I can't just do it by halves. I have to do like the creation myth, and like I'll have a Bible, like an actual Bible for my world before I've even started doing like topography and stuff.
Wow.
Like,
right.
And it's just nuts. So in the end, what I started doing was I looked at the settings that they had. Admittedly, I mainly used the Critical Role setting because I watched the show, so I'm familiar with it. And but there's some of the Ghost of Saltmarsh stuff I like. Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. So like using those are quite helpful because you've already got all that basic stuff. The creation myth, rah rah rah. All you've got to do now is actually write the story. You don't have to write all the fluff and so if I compare it to like biology, you've got the skeleton, so now I've just got to put the muscles in, like, sort of thing, and then skin it how I want it. Like, it's not, oh, I've got to start off with like every bone and make sure it connects properly and rah rah rah. It is literally like, right, I've got it, bang, let's go. So for example, with my Wildmount campaign at the minute, it's not 100% accurate to the show of Critical Role, because obviously we haven't learned that much about it, but there's things that I do there, like I take a faction, I've put all the characters in that faction, and they do like little missions that they're beginning to realise are part of a greater conspiracy, and now we're getting to that big sort of thing. So I like doing that rather than having to like I said, disappear like a movie madman and like come out like, I've cracked it, I know.
Your wife just walks into the bedroom and she's like having a duck under all the red strings, like.
Yeah, like I come out like Robin Williams in a Jumanji, like, what year is it? Like,
yeah.
So yeah, I understand that. I get what.
See, that's the approach I was taking to my homebrew. I wanted to run something in Eberron, because every time I've played D&D, it's been in Forgotten Realms, with the exception of Curse of Strahd. And there's nothing wrong with Forgotten Realms, the Sword Coast Faerun, and all of that. But Eberron is just a whole nother ballgame. It's amazing.
Oh, Eberron's fantastic. Yeah, I had a look at that the other day. A friend of mine gave me access to it. Very good stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to homebrew, and then Descent into Avernus came along, and I was like, cancel all the plans. I'm going to hell.
Scratch that. Yeah, let's go to hell.
Yeah. But anyway, Troy, you are 100% homebrew, so what's your approach to it?
Okay, so I imagine there's a lot of people out there going like, dude, what the hell are you doing? Yeah, where do you find the time? And I'll be honest with you, I don't know. I just pull time out of my ass, I guess. It's more of a case of, because all I've done is homebrew, is I've had to figure out ways to streamline and almost self-police myself. Like, because as you said, Addison, you'll sit there and you'll like hours upon hours just poured into this document of like the world creation, individual characters and all this stuff. And then you realize that like in your campaign setting, half your players just want to stab something in the face. So you're like, okay, well, there's only really one person at the table that might ask the right questions. So the way that I approach it is, firstly, I police myself and I say, you know, don't spend too long on little things. Like, get the bones done, so e.g. creation story and stuff to a degree, but don't overhaul on the detail, because you'll stress out, you'll pour all this love into it, and if no one asks you the questions about the backstory, you'll be a little bit like, come on man, I like spent 3 hours writing that.
I feel this on such an emotional level right now. I feel personally attacked.
Yeah. I don't mean to, but like that's it. I think there are other DMs out there that will also feel like, oh bro, you're talking to my soul.
Exactly.
I think I said something similar in the last episode. I said something along the lines of, I used to like methodically prepare for each session.
Yes, yeah.
This is going to happen, and then the players are going to do this, and then they're going to talk to that person, and so on and so forth. And I stopped doing that because the players would never ever do what I anticipate them to do, which is why I don't do that anymore. And all my planning is done like an hour before the session.
They have a way of just like out of nowhere, just shitting all over whatever you had planned. And I quickly learned that homebrewing it the way that the writers would normally go about doing it isn't how I should be doing it. I think that's what I quickly discovered. So the other thing that I do when it comes to sort of, I guess it's more of a preparation thing, but I come from a very deep background in gaming. I love games. I've played games since I was a very young kid, and they've been a big influential part of my life for a long time, and it was probably what got me started into actually having any sort of interest in this RPG side, because I'd played things like World of Warcraft and stuff where I've escaped to characters and I've escaped into these worlds, and I'm like, wait, I can do that myself. So one major thing that I take from games is how games work in the base code, right? So when a player jumps into a massive game like Skyrim, Skyrim has a bunch of lore that the writers have put down and stuff like that, but the player that is in the game does not see everything at once. You know what I mean? Like there is a whole world that you can go explore, but what the developers do is that they load sections of the game that are visible to your player at a time, right? So the way that I design my homebrew is, as I go along and as my players go along, I build the muscles as they explore the bones. So section at a time, which makes it a lot easier for me to focus on things, because then if I do want to double down on details, it's more likely for them to stumble across it because it is in their general, vicinity in terms of the story. That's how I do it. I just sort of as the players move into a new area, I load the new area with writing. And then sort of if there are any strings that I want to link to the bones that I have elsewhere, I can have those ties be put in later on. I don't have to worry about it right there and then.
That's a really good metaphor.
Call them ligaments instead of strings. Put the ligaments on the skeleton.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So piecemeal it. I load it in like a game would. That's how I sort of figure it out in my head.
No, fair enough.
Like loading screens. I like it.
Exactly.
It also helps that, just for everybody aware, I've played in one of Troy's, so everybody's aware, I've played in one of Troy's homebrew worlds, and the dude is ridiculously talented at everything, and I love him but hate him at the same time, because his homebrew world was amazing, and I was just like, this is so cool, to the point where you had a lizard folk language. I was like, okay. And now that you've explained it like that, when I remember playing,
it makes sense, doesn't it? Because you guys never really just randomly ran off into the woods miles away. You sort of stayed in the vicinity. Characters kept you in this local area, so all I had to do was just put detail in that area, and there was enough for you to just be attracted by.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's how I've done it. That's how I've done it since the beginning, basically, because I had to quickly figure out how to get it done quickly, because my players loved playing D&D, and well, that meant I had to write sessions a lot.
Fair enough. Good approach. I like it. And I will definitely be considering this when I do eventually get back to doing some homebrew.
Yeah, I think maybe the idea is also quite good for sort of if you are running a module as well, because obviously a module will have like a whole section about a town or something.
Yeah.
So
with a module, the main thing that you have to do, the single most important piece of preparation, is read the book from beginning to end. That's all you need to do. Read the book from beginning to the end. And like I said last time, I don't plan my sessions to like an hour, 2 hours before they're about to start. What did my players do last time? Where are they? Who are the NPCs around them? What mission are they currently on, or what plot hooks are nearby? Just make sure you know what's in the book, who the NPCs are, what their personality is, what their goals are, what locations are nearby, and then just let your players go wherever you want.
Yeah.
If you've read the book well enough, you can just take it from there.
Yeah, I'm with like settings. You have to do that as well. Like
Yes.
admittedly, I have to keep going back because sometimes, obviously. For those people who don't know, I'm heavily dyslexic, dyspraxic, so sometimes I forget things. But mainly, that's why I have the reference material with me at all times. So I've read it, and then I know of whereabouts it is in the book if I need to like go back, and then I flick through quickly. So yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Incredible. I love that. Like, it's a nice. I like the fact that we've got this spectrum of DMing styles here.
Yeah.
Yeah, experience, especially different experience, is good to hear from, because then you can learn stuff.
You're welcome, guys in the audience. You know, we're covering all of your bases.
So, where are we going to next?
Next. Very good question. Now, you're preparing your campaign, whether that be a module or a homebrew. You have some players. Do you do a session 0, yay or nay?
That is subjective.
That is subjective.
That is subjective. Are you talking, just for clarity, are you talking like on average, do you do a session 0, or is it something that you always do, or how do you want to mention
let's rephrase it. Let's rephrase it this way. Would you recommend doing a session 0? And a session 0 is where before you start your campaign, you get together with all of your players, explain what the campaign is going to be like, lay down some ground rules, discuss the requirements for their characters that they're going to go off and make. Do you have that thing before you start a campaign?
If I can, yes, I will say that. Yeah,
I enjoy it. I like a good session 0, especially because sometimes I've done session 0s for each individual character. And that way you can sort of give them almost like a unique little like background story from the get-go that none of the other players will know about, and that kind of creates an interesting roleplay dynamic there. But yeah, I love a good session 0. If I can use it, like Addison said, I'll definitely give it a go.
I think you, Troy, do session 0s a bit differently as well, in terms of like some people when they do session 0, I don't know if you do it like this, Leon, or if you even do it, but they just hold court basically and have like a meeting of like but I like how with you, Troy, we'll create our characters and then we'll have like a little mini adventure.
Yeah,
like we'll do like a little bit of like a mini story. So you did it with me and our friend on Friday for our current game that we're playing, and that was really good because you talked about us to our characters, introduced us to the setting, and then did all that.
I also split you into 2 separate groups because I've got 4 players. Obviously it was due to availability, but it was quite good to actually separate the 2 players out, because then everything that I told the first group may not necessarily be known to the second group, and so when in session 1 they come together, there's almost talking points. There's things for you to sort of move into quite effortlessly.
What about you, Leon?
Yeah.
What's your?
I've never done a session 0.
Bruh.
I've done what you could consider a session 0.5. What I'll usually do is I'll talk to players individually beforehand. That could be in person, it could be on Facebook through Messenger, something like that. And then once that's done, I'll probably get everybody together in a group chat, lay down the lore in the group chat. And when it comes around to the first session, so 0.5, whatever you want to call it, we'll have a discussion as a group, maybe for the first hour or so, and my sessions are usually about 3 hours, and then we'll spend the second 2 hours, that doesn't make sense, we'll spend the next 2 hours literally playing the game. So yeah, I don't really do a session 0, but I do have those discussions beforehand.
When I do it, admittedly, I try and do something that's I give like my players, like you do, Leon, some guidance in like a messaging app or something. But then when we come together, I kind of like to try and do like character creation together, so that especially if there's like, say, new people or people who've never played together before, because it gives them time to get familiar with each other and like maybe test like each other's like specialties. So for example, if I was DMing for myself and then I came along and sat down and there was somebody who wanted to play Monk for the first time. Monk is like my favourite class, and we'll get into that in another day why, but that's my favourite, so that's like my area of expertise, so I can help that person build their character and you become more friendly and stuff like that. And then if there's time, I'll do a bit of the adventure, but I kind of like that getting together aspect beforehand and making people feel comfortable. I think you've
touched on a good point there. Yeah, making people feel comfortable is really important.
Session comfortable would be like, because we'll make it. I try and make it chill. Like I might bring snacks or whatnot.
Yeah.
I guess I don't do that because I'm quite fortunate in the fact I'm in about 3 different groups, and they're all like long-term groups. We've all known each other in those individual groups for a while, so I don't really need to break the ice for new people, if that makes sense.
We got a bit of a game slut over
recently.
here, have we?
What was that?
We got a bit of a game slut over here, have we?
Oh yeah, baby. I did add some. I did add a fellow to one of our weekly campaigns before the world ended, and I guess if I were to do it again, I probably would have done it a better way. But I just spoke with him individually and then just sat him down at the table after he'd made his character. I probably wouldn't do it that way again. I probably would. I don't know how I would do it better next time because the campaign was already in progress.
Well, did you notice anything different about how he was behaving in the game because of it, or like was he?
Not really. He wasn't uncomfortable. Okay. He was a tenured D&D player.
Okay, good.
It just felt a bit disjointed and janky,
right,
if that makes sense. It was only for like the first hour or so until he got into the flow. But if it was a newbie in that situation, whereas he was an expert, it probably would have affected it.
Yeah, one of the ways I've done it before to drop somebody in the middle is like make them either a plot point or make them a mystery for like the other players to solve, because the other players will not knowing who that person is like will like freak them out a little bit, and but making them still important enough to keep around. So a good example I have is in the Wildmount game. Somebody joined because somebody had to leave the game because they weren't available anymore, so I had a space and I let somebody join in. And basically they found the character inside a crystal powering what we called an astrolabe, which allowed people to plane shift based on this magic circle on the floor. And basically he woke up, they woke him up, he taught them how to use the astrolabe, and they kept him nearby because as well he kept saying weird things like that's not supposed to be there, like about like cities and stuff. So it's almost like he's out of time. So they're trying to like figure out where he's from,
Yeah.
we also gave them a different language.
You're encouraging the characters to explore the new player,
the new guy.
Yeah. So that's the only thing that I've ever, especially if it's in the middle of something, that's the only way I've known it to work for me personally. But I don't know about at the beginning.
I've had good and bad experiences with suddenly being a new player or being the DM and having to drop in a new player. But I think we're digressing a little bit. We're here to prepare, aren't we? Yeah. So session zero. Let's go back to that. What questions are you asking your players, and what questions are your players asking you?
I mean, obviously it's the basics. So like, if they're a new player, obviously they're like, how do I play? But I imagine it's mostly like character stuff, especially like it's for me it's mostly character stuff, like, you know, because I obviously I do a lot of homebrew, so people are always like, you know, can you tell me a little bit about your world, so I can sort of plop my character in there, and I sort of bounce some ideas off of the player to help them sort of like worm it into the world, which is normally what most of my session zeros are.
Mine's very much questions like that. I think the most important question, especially if you're making characters, is like is to ask them questions to help construct it. So one of them that I used to do, don't so much anymore, but I used to do, was if this character was a character from a TV show, film, game, whatever, who would they be? So,
that's a good one.
So for example, like if you wanted to make Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, you know, fighter, like fighter, great weapon master, human, like, so you get those basic things at level 1, and then maybe at level 3 you determine what kind of Cloud you want to build. So do you want to build the materia heavy Cloud, Eldritch Knight? But if you don't, then something, and you want him to be more physical attacks, you've got things like Samurai would be good for him, and stuff like that. So yeah, that's one of the questions I ask. I ask if there's anything like taboo in terms of like topics. Because I will admit I've fallen into that trap. And I think if you DM and you say you haven't, you're either 1, lying, or 2, you've been not paying attention enough. Because people get triggered by certain things, and so I asked that. But in terms of like players asking me questions, I just want them to feel comfortable asking me anything. So even if they believe it's a stupid question, which there are stupid questions, don't get me wrong, but in terms of D&D, like, I don't think there are many. Like,
I think the most important for me for the session 0, or the 0.5 as I do, is making sure the characters fit in the world.
That's a good point.
And we'll discuss this in more detail in the next episode, but I want to make sure that the player builds a character that's not just appropriate for the world, but appropriate for the campaign. My experience with this was in Dragon Heist. What I should have done was had my players build characters that had a vested interest in finding a vast sum of money. I didn't do that the first time I ran it, and nobody was that interested in the main plot line, so I had to figure out loads of other plot lines. If I had told them to create characters that needed money for whatever reason, maybe they're nobles and they just want to make a name, maybe they're poor and they need to get off the street, then I think it would have been a better campaign. No, I'm going to retract that last statement. The campaign as it was fantastic, but it would have been more closely tied to the book, and it would have been less work for me to make it something that's better. In fact, now that I say this out loud, it's probably better that they didn't make... I don't know what I'm saying. I've just been contradicting myself like several times. Never mind. Why am I even here? I'm going home.
I feel as though I get what you mean, though. Like making sure that they're invested in like the main plot hook, especially in a module. Like that makes sense.
I think let's just boil this down to bring an adventurer to the table. Don't bring a character that just wants to stay in his bakery and make bread. Bring an adventure that wants to go out and fight dragons.
I can't remember who said it, but it was on Twitter, and somebody like made a tweet about like why are all D&D characters like orphans and with tragic backstories, and then somebody like quite famous replied something like, because nobody who's got a stable life is going to go out and slay dragons, Karen.
Yeah.
like yeah, on the farm, just there, like, oh, do you want to go slay a dragon? No, I'm fine with my cobbler business.
Yeah.
I'm cool. Like, I can make shoes. I'm making money. Why would you go on adventure?
Yeah,
like,
so true.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm happy with my 4 hit points.
Yeah, my D4 hit dice. Like I agree though, Leon. Like, if you have characters that don't like have a sort of path that drives the narrative, you as a DM are gonna be like spider webbing so many things, because you're like, everyone's goals are so like sparse and like different that you're having to sort of like micromanage so many avenues that you could go down, which can create like the panic where it's like one character suddenly run off to do this because he spotted someone that's in his backstory, and then the other characters don't really know who that is, so they just like kind of carry on shopping, and you've like trying to balance 2 things at the same time. I think a good example of a time that I've done something like you said, Addison, the game that you talked about, the one that I homebrewed, all the characters were moving to a newly discovered land, much like the Americas of the day. And so when I asked the players to make their characters, I specifically asked them to come up with reasons as to why they are leaving the land that they were born in. Like, why is it that they are basically up and leaving and trying to settle this new world? And with that came a cohesive goal, generally, between them, which is sort of, I want this new world to be good for me. And so as long as the group had that tied goal, they all sort of generally moved in the right direction, which helped me massively.
Yeah. And like I kind of cheated with the Wildmount campaign because I made them all take a certain background from the book.
Yeah.
Which automatically linked them all together because they were all part of the same faction.
Makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah. What I did for my most recent campaign, I just said, you're going to start as a group. It's for you to decide how you'll know each other.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you some quickfire questions.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think we'll answer them quickly, but you get the
All
idea. All right. Stat gen. How do you do it?
Standard array.
Standard array, but I like
that is 3 for standard array.
Oh no, but there's a caveat. Give Troy's caveat.
There is a caveat. It's a little bit like how Matt Mercer sort of stats his characters. Like, I naturally want my players to feel heroic, unless I am throwing them in a campaign where I want them to grow from 0 to hero. 0 to hero.
Just like that.
So I want. It depends on the campaign. If they are sort of 0 to hero, I will give them standard array and they can develop it. If they're sort of coming in from a background of like they're actually reasonably good at what they do, I hate the idea of having a rogue that is like a thief and every sleight of hand and thing is just like ruined by the fact that he doesn't have a high enough modifier for it. And I like to give them just a little bit of an extra boost so that they have a higher rate of success in a thing that they're supposed to be good at.
Well, have I told you about my character who I want to use in your next campaign? He is not only the smartest person in the entire land, he has like several PhDs. He's also the strongest person in the entire land. He can lift an entire house with just his arm, just the one arm, not 2.
No.
And he is the most charismatic motherfucker you could possibly imagine. He is more charismatic than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So please give me my bonuses.
All right. Oh. There we go.
So I want to throw a cat amongst the pigeons on this one. A bit of my own like quickfire question. What's everybody's thing about rolling?
I hate it.
Me too. Thank you, Leon. Thank you. And there is one specific reason I hate it, but I'm going to listen to Troy's response first, and I'm going to give you my reason.
I mean, I don't mind it, but I every time it's rolled, I end up changing it anyway. So it's like, why the fuck did I roll in the first place?
The reason I hate it is because of one individual, and I think both of you know this individual. Zach, if you're out there, you did this to me. You scarred me. Like, you hurt me deeply. So, Zach, no matter what, and we've all sat there and watched him do it. So it's not like he's BS'd it at home and cheated. Like, he never ever rolls unless we're all there. The dude rolled 18 perfectly for all 6 stats.
Jeez.
What?
Right?
No.
Which
What dice were you using?
He was using D6s. He was using 1d6 as well. So we watched him roll, like, what? 6 times 4, 24 times. 24 times we watched him roll the same d6, right? And we rolled it, and it still landed on 6. So, and he's done this to me twice, pretty much. I think one of them there was 116. So, one time he played a law bard, which like, so he was good at everything. There was no point in any of us being here. Like, screw this. Like, and then the second one, he was a Tempest cleric.
Wow.
So somehow the Tempest cleric that believed he was no word of a lie, this human Tempest cleric believed he was Dragonborn because he was raised by Dragonborns, and would, even when he looked in the mirror, he had an intelligence of +4, and he didn't believe that he wasn't a dragon, right? So I'm just there like, what's the point? What's the point of me being here? His wisdom modifier was so high that he just ended everything. Like, I was like there, like, why is my small elf boy druid ass here? Like, I'm like, I don't understand. I was so angry, like, about it, and it pains me to this day. So from
that is my problem with rolling. You know, you're going to get somebody like Zach who has maximum stats from level 1, and then you're going to get Sarah whose highest stat is a 14.
Oh yeah,
and,
exactly.
You know, it's a team-based game, and the standard array serves to have an equal playing field for everybody on the team, without anybody feeling left out or useless.
Yeah, and more specifically,
that's what it boils down to.
More
for me.
specifically, it actually has like one strong stat and like one weak stat, and it forces the players to think, what am I good at and what am I bad at?
Yeah.
Whereas if you're rolling like 6 18s, what's the point of everybody else being there?
Turns out I'm good at everything. Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, I didn't even, because I forgot about to touch on that, because that is the thing, because I've tried rolling once, and my stats were so bad, like, for what I was, like, because I was just there like, there is literally no point me being this character because all my stats were really bad. And the DM was like really kind, and he said, well, you can re-roll a couple, and even when I re-rolled them, they were like the same or worse. So he was just like, just take standard array. Like, this is ridiculous. And it's because I couldn't do anything. Like, I was playing a paladin, and my charisma score was below 10.
Oh no!
Like,
this is why I don't like standard array, because it's just
you like standard array.
You like standard array.
So this is why I don't use rolling.
Yeah.
If anybody's wondering, I am not drunk, nor am I high. The only thing I've drunk today is water.
That's some good water.
Yeah, it's like next time you fight a dragon, you might as well just run in its mouth, so you have an excuse to build another character.
Exactly. He knows. Alrighty then.
Yeah, I've been there. I've done it. All right, next quickfire question: XP versus milestones. Go, Troy.
Milestone.
Addison.
Milestone for Homebrew, XP for modules.
Leon. Milestones for everything apart from adventure. What's it called?
Adventurers League.
Adventurers League, in which case XP. Adventurers. XP is only for Adventurers League. It's not for anything else. It's just for Adventurers League. That's my opinion.
I think that the modules are built around XP a bit more than milestone. Sometimes
nope, they are. No. For the past like 5 modules, they've been built around milestones.
Are they?
Wizards of the Coast abandoned XP a long time ago for anything other than Adventurers League.
Oh, fair enough then. Then I'm on milestones all the way then, if that's the case.
Yep.
I love Milestones. It just gives you way much more control over when and where your players are progressing.
And I like the fact as well that like it encourages them to, especially if you do like milestones in terms of like narrative, it encourages them to like role play and stuff and go through something rather than just like I'm gonna blitz through this dungeon and blah 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 and get farm XP.
Yeah, you
like a video
break,
game.
you break away from that video game, like let's go to this random place and kill a bunch of adorable creatures to then get XP.
Yeah, let's just spend the next 3 months killing boar in the woods.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well,
I love that South Park reference, by the way.
But yeah, it's like it's way better if you just sort of like say, you know, I'm gonna go milestone XP. You know, as you guys begin to unlock parts of the story, you're almost rewarding your players for adventuring, and that's what it's about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas the flip side with XP is you're rewarding players for killing.
Yeah.
You know, if there's a situation that you don't need to fight, let's say, I don't know, there's a troll. He's got something stuck in his foot. You talk to the troll, you take the thing out of his foot. There's no combat. You don't get XP. Whereas you see a troll, you want XP. You kill troll.
Yep.
Simple. You get XP.
I don't know.
And then,
Sorry.
and then there's other questions regarding XP as well. It's like I've had DMs before that only give XP to the person who got the killing blow, which was absolute nonsense.
Oh yeah, no, like put him in the bin, kill it with fire.
Yeah. and then there's if somebody misses a session, that person doesn't get any XP for that session, so then everybody's leveling up differently. Is that fair? Should that person be penalized because they had to take on an extra shift at work? It's just too many questions regarding XP. I'd just rather do milestones, reward the adventuring, reward the roleplay, go with that route rather than, you know, asking 10,000 questions about when and how everybody gets XP.
So there you go, DMs out there.
Yeah, milestones for the win apparently, eh, Troy?
Yeah, damn right.
I will caveat like the thing with XP though in terms of like just killing, because I have seen some people use XP quite interestingly in terms of so if you survive like a social encounter with a troll, so like we'll use your troll example, Leon. I've never done this personally, but when I was learning to DM, it was something that I considered. So the troll's got something stuck in his foot. You survive that social encounter, and you finish it. Blah blah blah. There was no combat. Some DMs do reward XP for the social.
Yes, they do. I've had a DM that would reward XP for social interactions, but only 50%. And it's like, why? What is the basis for that? Why are you deciding it's only worth 50%?
I would say that you give them the whole thing. So if you react with a king, if you react with a king who has a CR 10, you get the CR 10 XP for that one like tense interaction. You don't get it every time you talk to them, because I suppose that's the danger. Yeah. But when it's like an encounter, like a almost like a negotiation or an intimidation or something like that, then yes, like where you have to work for it, the sort of thing. Yeah. But so
essentially that's a milestone by stealth.
Yeah, pretty admittedly, yeah.
They've achieved this significant point in the story and you're rewarding them for it. So it's just milestones but with extra steps.
Yeah, true. So like I said, I don't condone XP anymore now that I know that a lot of the modules aren't in XP anymore. Like I would prefer milestones completely, but I'm just saying that some people might be there like in the comments like, well, I reward social XP, and I'm like, we know that. We just prefer milestones. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I can tell you off the top of my head, Dragon Heist is milestones. Ghosts of Saltmarsh is milestones. Descent into Avernus is milestones. Princes of the Apocalypse gives you options for both, because I think that's where they made the turning point.
Right.
And I think everything from there on forwards is 100% milestones.
Fair enough. Very nice.
And I think that's probably why Matt Mercer made the change as well, probably because the Wizards were making the change.
See, that makes me more inclined to look into getting some of these modules.
Yeah. I will lend you some as soon as the pandemic allows me outside.
Oh, thank you, Leon.
All right, Next quickfire question.
Let's go.
Optional rules. Which ones do you use? I'm talking things like flanking. I'm talking things like feats. Which optional rules from the Dungeon Master's Guide do you use? Let's start with Addison.
Flanking, because as a martial artist, like, I know very much that one of the things you do when you're fighting multiple opponents is you keep them in front of you.
Yep.
You never let them get either side of you, because it becomes a battle of too much resource management. It's one of the reasons why in a lot of self-defense settings and scenarios, courses, whatever you want to call it, the first thing they'll tell you to do if you are ever fighting multiple opponents is get your back against a wall.
Yeah.
Like, so I firmly believe in like flanking as like a thing. Like, some people are like, well, it's as easy to hit you, or it shouldn't be easier to hit me because you're on the other side of me. I'm like, unless you've got eyes in the back of your head, like, yes, it is. Like, that's why people get jumped. So it's not even like a realism thing. It's just like something I know. So because it also encourages people to fight from angles, and it encourages the use of movement in creative ways. So,
yeah, players have to think more tactically rather than just, hit with axe.
I think that in terms of other like little rules, it depends on the campaign I'm playing. So one of the things that in my Disney campaign that I did recently, that Troy was a part of, and you were a part of for a little bit, Leon, is actually one of the things that I was doing in terms of feats, especially with feats, is that every time you defeated like a boss and you got their weapon, basically attuning it gave you a feat. Like, and I quite liked that. It was quite fun.
I enjoyed that.
Because of the fact that you could get things like polearm master because you had this polearm, rather than having to sacrifice an ability score improvement or something like that. And you could like swap out feats. It was like a cool little like. It was almost like a video game mechanic. Like, you're learning this skill because you have this bit of gear equipped, but it just but it fit that world because it's a very like cartoony Disney like esque mechanic.
Yeah, characters.
I don't think I could do that. Yeah, I don't think that it would work in, say, my Wild Mount game.
Yeah,
so,
I think those are the only two optional rules I use as well. Flanking. I've only just started using flanking in my most recent campaign, Ghost of Saltmarsh, and I'm quite enjoying it. It's I have a rogue. The rogue is thinking more tactically about how he can run in and do some stabbing, and the other optional rule I use is feats. For all of my campaigns, I give players a free feat, just to add that little bit of extra customization to the characters. Because my opinion is feats don't make everything overpowered. I mean, you only have one action, you only have one bonus action. It's just giving you another choice to use.
Yes, I love choice.
Another way to customize your character. Because, a level 20 paladin is a level 20 paladin. The only difference is the subclass.
yeah.
Anything else you can do to change your character up a little bit is fine with me.
Yeah.
Anyway, Troy, over to you.
Flanking, yes, love flanking. I'm a real-time strategy gamer, so as soon as there's any level of strategy involved, I'm like, hell yeah, let's put that in there. Feats, love feats. Same thing as you, Leon and Addison. It's like, it gives this extra layer of customization and choice. The players can just be like, oh, this feat really suits kind of how he fights or how he interacts with people, and it's like, perfect, you can take that. I don't give it out for free, so I'm definitely playing in your next game, Leon. But there is a rule that I've no longer done in my current campaign, but I used to do a while back, which is the natural one table of mishaps. So a lot of DMs either have like a crit sort of table or a natural one table. When I first did it, I sort of just did it on the fly. Whenever someone rolled a natural one, I'd think about what they were doing at the time and make the mishap related to such a thing. E.g., someone using their bowstring breaks, or when they miss their shot, it hits someone else. Adding this like extra layer of like jeopardy to the natural one makes people like across the table when they see the one kind of go. But I stopped it purely because it was getting to the point where I was was losing a lot of my players' interest. So I might bring it back to a group that may be more inclined to enjoy such a thing. But the players that I have at the moment were getting really annoyed with the natural ones because I was doing some really bizarre stuff to them. So I kind of called that off. But that was something like outside of the normal sort of optional rules that I was like, oh yeah, that's something I used to do, but I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I used to use those, and I guess I stopped using it for similar reasons. Another reason was that it just slowed the combat down a little bit. It's like, okay, now I need to roll a D100. Let me check what that does. Oh yeah, it does that. Okay, so this is what happens. It just slowed it down a little bit for me. Now I just make something up on the spot when I get a natural one or a crit.
Yeah, I do. That's something I wanted to ask you guys about. Your crit roll before we move on.
Technically that's optional, isn't it?
Yeah.
Double all of the dice and then add your modifier.
Because I've had all three versions of this that I've heard. There was one, it's double all the dice, which is one I use personally.
Yeah, that's the one I use.
Same.
Then add modifiers. I had one.
Well, that answers your question. So just tell us what the other two are.
The other two are roll dice twice, which I think is stupid, and the other one is do the full dice damage and then roll dice and then add modifiers, if that makes sense. So if you've got a 2d6 for a greatsword, you do 12 damage off the bat and then you roll your 2d6 again. Say you get 8. So you've got 20 damage plus your modifiers.
Holy shit, that sneak attack must be insane.
Well, that's the thing. Because of the fact that was insane, it did happen on a sneak attack. And because of how it was worded, like you score max on all rolled dice, then roll dice again. Sneak attack was insane, so the DM had to stop that because of the fact that the dude who was because he had assassinate as well as an assassin, you automatically crit if you go first, don't you? And you have sneak attack. So
yeah,
like
ouch.
Yeah, he was just unzipping people like. So yeah, that's what I wanted to know. And then I had a cool thing for the feats thing, but it's not a big deal. Some people like to earn feats, like you have to do certain things like 10 times. It's a bit of another video game mechanic-y thing, and then you earn that feat. But it's not something I'm a fan of, really.
Well, let's shuffle on then.
Let's shuffle on. Yes, this is going to be quite a long episode, so I hope everybody's enjoying it. All right, so you've got your campaign planned out in your head on a macro level, a high level. You have an idea of the story you want to tell overall, plus the individual stories you want your players to go through. So let's talk about the micro level. How do you plan for an individual session? I've already discussed what I do. I don't plan until like 2 hours before the session. But what do you guys do? How do you plan a session? Not a campaign, just the individual 3, 4, 5 hour session.
I'm going to let Troy take this one first.
Yeah, he's the homebrew G.
Yeah.
Well, I am a bullet point god. I load up my 6-shooter full of bullet points and I bang, bang, bang into the Word document until I've got a basic outline.
That is one heck of an analogy, Troy. Bravo.
Like that's how I do. Like bullet points. That is my jam. I will pull out a document. I'll be there like, right, where are they going? A little bit like you, but maybe not an hour before. I'll just maybe after the last session, I'll just be like, right, what are the key points that have happened? And then maybe I'll come back to it again, do some more bullet points, like where could they go? And then maybe like larger bullet points for like, overall plot hooks and places that they're sort of going to be potentially visiting. But I kind of keep it really vague because, I've done a lot of improvisation, so I can come up with things on the fly. As long as I have my bullet points, I am set.
Yeah, that's cool. I think we're all on a similar wavelength with that, like bullet points. I think my only difference is
Speak for yourself and Troy.
with bullet points is I have a thing of a focus character. So one of my party members is not the favorite. I'm not going to use that word, but like they are
in the spotlight.
They are in the spotlight. I'm a very character-orientated GM. I think me and Troy spoke about this multiple times, but I'm very character-orientated. So I'll go, right, this session, I want to put this person in the spotlight and learn more about them in these bullet points. So I'll do things like give them things that, or will give them challenges that none of the other players have, and like, because they're so sneakily sometimes, well, they're not sneakily now, sorry guys, but now they're so sneakily sent in, like people don't like go, oh, why are they getting all this stuff, like and then we explore some of their characters and why they are like they are and stuff like that. So yeah, I have like a focus character, but mine's very much like a garden path of bullet points. Like, there's going to be an attack by a fire giant. Like, cool.
Yep.
Like, there's going to be this. Cool. They're going to possibly find this. But then spotlight character, if they get this, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like, I planned traps my last wild mount session. Like, I basically trolled them all and kept making them fall for traps because none of them were checking. And then when they found them, they weren't telling each other. So like, I just kept like, if you're not telling each other, then you don't know. Therefore, you don't get advantage, and therefore you're gonna fall for them. Like, so yeah, that was pretty fun.
Are you a bullet point boy, Leon?
I'm not a bullet point boy. My preparation consists of, I like to leave a session on not quite a cliffhanger, but I'll give an example. The last session I played in person with Addison before the world ended.
Yeah.
And we were playing Curse of Strahd. And for those who are familiar with Curse of Strahd, we just got to the town of Barovia. We just met Ismark.
Oh.
What did your character do, Addison?
So, hang on. Okay. So I shot this dude in the foot. I shot this dude in the foot. Oh no! You
just shot a random guy in the foot that you just met and who was very polite to you. But anyway,
was he? Hang on. What? No, he was not polite. And I...
He was incredibly polite. He invited you to his house. He bought you a round of beverages, and you shot him in the foot.
This is a story for another time, Leon.
Yes, but the point is that's where I ended the session. I like to leave my sessions on points like that so that I can spend the next week thinking about what I'm going to do during that session, during the next session, and then about an hour, 2 hours before, I will commit to how I want to resolve that situation.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not going to say how I intend to resolve that situation because Addison's in the campaign, but I will eventually.
Give away those trade secrets.
Yeah, I'll spend a week thinking about what I want to do, and then the hour before I'll commit to what I want to do. So if they've just decided to go to a tavern or something, I'll think about what could happen inside that tavern. If somebody's just shot somebody in the foot, I'll consider how the entire town will react. I'll look at rules for mass fights, because I think the 6 of them are probably going to have to fight about 20 villagers.
Thunderwave.
Yeah. If they are on the road somewhere, I'll probably roll a random encounter beforehand so that I can, flavor how I'm going to put that encounter into the game. Things like that.
That's fair enough.
Going back to what I said in the previous segment, as long as you know the world, the characters, the NPCs, you can set it up so in such a way that your characters can go anywhere, do anything, and you'll be prepared for it. If you're not prepared for it, just make it up on the spot. 9 times out of 10, I'm making stuff up on the spot because characters will ask a question I don't know the answer to, so I'll just make something up. And it works sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. Because if you make something up on the spot, you have to commit to it.
Yeah.
Which is the problem. But, the more you practice it, the better you get at it, I suppose.
It is. It's a thing of practice.
Yeah. And I think, you'd be lying as a DM if you said that you planned out everything and you never made anything up. Like, why lie about that? We know that, like, 80% of our session was stuff being made up and us, like, having to move our goalposts sort of thing. So, it's fine.
Mate, I'm running around that field with the damn goalpost. I'm like, please, kick it in here, damn it.
Let's take a bit of a cheekier turn for the next segment. All of this requires a lot of imagination to do, preparing a campaign. Any imagination is nothing without inspiration. What sources have you straight up ripped off for your games? Troy.
Every anime ever. But like it's mainly the media that I consume. Like
Yes.
9 times out of 10, it's always going to be something that has influenced me as an individual through the story that they've written. So, e.g., I mentioned Lord of the Rings in the last episode. I've just mentioned, obviously, animes. There are a lot of really good animes out there. I'm currently using some of the animes that I watched as a kid for inspiration for the current game that I'm running. Just because the way that they were written back in those days, there was a simplicity to them.
Yeah.
And the plots sort of like rolled through. And like there were... What animes do really well is not only the flavor, but they love slotting in lore time, and I love a bit of lore. I will lore dump my players whenever they ask for it because it's my thing. So animes, they have that classic midway episode, you know, your character's trying to win whatever it is and they're having this big fight, and then like midway through they have a flashback and they're like, oh, remember this time? Well, I don't do it to that degree. I don't just like stop the fight in the middle and be like, you're having a memory.
You have filler episodes, that's what you have.
Yeah, exactly. I will block out like so if they had like maybe 3 I nearly said episodes. I mean, I guess that's how I run them. If I had 3 sessions in a row where they were fighting non-stop, and they finally come out the other side of it, I'm gonna then give them an opportunity to calm down, find out some lore, and maybe have a moment to think about those things. And that inspiration comes from the anime that I consume and the media. So for the people out there that may be interested in these animes, Black Clover, really good. Enjoying that one at the moment. Kimetsu no Yaiba or Demon Slayer, another really good one. Throwback to Yu-Gi-Oh! Specifically Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, which I'm using for inspiration, and also My Hero Academia. 2 very good sort of animes to watch if you want to do a high school setting. But yeah, that's mainly what I steal from. Oh, and games.
Question: Does Castlevania count as an anime? Because that was my main inspiration for when I ran.
Damn right it does.
It's
a game. It was the game first, but the anime is bloody brilliant.
That was pretty much what I modelled my Barovia on.
I do think the dude as well said that he wants it to be classified as an anime. The guy who made it, because of the fact that he literally used their style and everything. So yeah,
this gives me an idea to do a Dragon Ball Z themed campaign.
Yeah,
everybody's a monk.
No, everyone's just shouting more, like they're just like, ah!
And an entire round of combat takes 3 hours.
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah.
You need the dude with the voice though. The guy's like, and can Goku defeat like Frieza?
Oh
Next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, exactly.
What about you, Leon? What do you use?
What do I use? Well, Castlevania is fantastic. What I really like to use is I like to use a lot of mythological stuff. I'll give an example. I don't think this episode is going to go out before I do this in the game, so I'm happy to say this. In my next session of Ghosts of Saltmarsh, which I'm just using as like a skeleton, basically. The best thing about Ghosts of Saltmarsh is the random tables at the back and the ship rolls. I am going to introduce a pirate captain. That pirate captain will be a Medusa.
Oh.
Yeah,
Wow.
a Gorgon.
That's pretty sick.
I love the Greek and Roman mythology, so I like to use a lot of that in my games. The pirate captain is going to have a crew filled with, and they're all going to be blinded, apart from a couple of Yuan Ti, who are immune to the curse, because, you know, they're snake people, and Medusa has snakes on her head. Things like that I love to use. I like to take a little bit from Egypt, take a little bit from the Aztecs. Really like to throw all of that stuff in my games. Love that stuff.
You're quite historic. You're not really using too much like fantasy resources now.
Well, I mean, it depends on your definition of fantasy. You could consider it fantasy.
I guess so. Yeah.
But I love this stuff. Like I have a tattoo of Anubis on my calf. I love this stuff.
That is cool.
Very nice.
If I do ever get around to finishing off a homebrew campaign, it'll probably be some kind of blend of Egyptian mythology with some Greek mythology, some British mythology, all that kind of stuff.
But the
Count me in.
But the thing is, Leon,
What?
Theros is coming out.
Theros is coming
Of
out.
course. Oh my god. Are you cursed, Leon?
The thing is, that's a setting book, I believe, and not a module. So I can absolutely take some stuff from that if it's a setting book. If it is a campaign module, well, then there goes my homebrew again. But from what I understand, it's a setting book because Theros is a setting in Magic the Gathering, just like
it's a plane.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I'm looking forward to that book more than I have of any other book that Wizards have released, simply for that reason.
Addison, I know your answer because I've seen it so much. But you go for it.
I'm actually anime and books, mainly books, and very much and Critical Role, I guess, because I run a lot of my campaigns in the world of Critical Role. But yeah, it's mainly and in terms of like when I say books and anime, I will straight up rip characters, and we're going to talk about this later. But if I've not got an NPC, and I'm like, they're like, because that is one of the great things about anime. Okay, anime do tropey characters fantastically, and like, so if you've got a trope that you need to fill, you just pick any one of 1,000 characters from 1,000 anime, and you could probably fill it. Like, so so that is my main thing is books, because I'll take things like concepts from books. So like one of the things that I really like, and it's a part of British mythology actually, is the idea of true names, like true names in terms of like them giving power and permission over things.
There was an unearthed arcana for that type of
Yeah.
magic, wasn't it?
Oh mate,
Onomancy or something.
Onomancy. I have been using that quite frequently, but I don't think my players have realised. Like,
Okay.
Interesting.
So because of the fact that the campaign kind of allows for like experimentation with magic, because that's kind of what their faction's about. I can use some of the unearthed arcana like magical sources, which is pretty fun.
You would absolutely wreck Descent into Avernus because there's a lot of devils in there, and everybody knows what happens once you find out a devil's true name.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I quite like concepts like that. I kind of want to do something with the concept of demons from his Dark Materials. I don't know if any of you have ever.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I want to do something like that, like a concept like that, and like genuinely have some sort of like animal avatar that all the characters have, like a familiar that all the characters have. But
just give everybody the chain warlock.
Yeah,
feature.
chain
That'd be
warlock.
pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
And
that would
then
work.
like have something to do with that, like from his Dark Materials. Not going to spoil it, but you know, like some like concepts like that. That's my main thing. So yeah.
Since we're discussing rip-offs, I am very, 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 very tempted to rip off your idea with the familiars.
Well, I think we can all come to the consensus that ripping things off is a big part of being a DM.
Yeah.
Like everyone's going to take
Magpies.
inspiration from somewhere, and even if you just straight up copy and paste it, don't worry. Like, because even if your players have consumed the media that you're copy and pasting, at least even then it's familiar to that player.
Yeah.
And that they will have like almost an initial mental reference to what you're doing.
This is all ripped off from Tolkien anyway.
Yeah. And like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the whole game itself is a rip-off, really.
and the thing is, like, what's it? Nothing's original under the sun. Like,
Yeah.
you may think that you've found like the most awesome concept ever. And tell you what, I'm gonna Google it, and I bet you there's thousands of others just like it, or next to it by like 1 degree. Like,
Well, no one's ever done a chill podcast, all right, guys.
Yeah.
So we've got that market, right?
but yeah, no, those are my main inspirations, and we've kind of talked about most of the bullet points on the script, like
Yeah.
why we might do it. So one of my things might be to fill a void, I've got a massive tournament arc coming up in my Wild Mount campaign, talking about anime inspirations. Genuinely got a tournament arc, so I've like kind of filled the other teams with stock anime characters, but then changed little things about them. So, if my players are listening, you're welcome. So for example, I've got Bertolt from Attack on Titan.
Wait, whoa. I know. I mean, I don't want to say anything, but like
His
Bertolt.
I exactly, and I will say his signature spell is enlarge.
Okay, right. Oh, cool. Good to know.
Okay, so they're all like wizards, like so it's all like different wizards, sorcerers.
Tri-Wizard Cup.
Pretty much, it's basically the best way to put it is that the faction that they're all a part of has 3 different teams representing 3 different people who want to be the leader, and basically the people who lose will lose face and therefore lose power. So that my players are representing one of those people, and like they can't lose. It's basically like don't come back if you've lost is the basic thing. So
this is just screaming Tri-Wizard tournament at me.
Yeah, it is literally that. Yeah.
I think Leon, you need to maybe do some copy and pasting here on Tri-Wizard.
See, I was thinking for my Greek campaign of starting it with an Olympics.
Oh yes,
mate.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Oh!
That's a good idea. Yeah, definitely do that.
Yeah, I don't know how it will work yet, but you know, it'll be 2 hours before the session before I decide how it's going to work.
Classic Leon.
All right, shall we go into the final segment?
I'm getting a tingly sensation.
Yeah, here goes.
It's that time.
Here it goes.
I'm getting
it's
time. So last time, we all answered a question, but I think this time, I think only one of us, because we've done quite a bit in this episode, and I want to sort of like keep it at a good length for everyone listening at home. So what we'll do is we'll choose who's going to answer the question, and then they will be the one to answer the question, and then whoever didn't answer the question will sort of maybe pursue their ideals a little bit more.
Okay.
Yes, please, before we start that, please let me tell the listeners what we're about to do. We are about to do another segment of The Deck of Many Questions. This is the part of the show where we take user-submitted questions, and they can be easy, difficult, tame, controversial, whatever. We put them on a list, assign each question a number, and roll the dice to determine the question. Then we roll a dice to determine which of us will answer the question. And then the person answers the question. Or did you just say we're going to do something different, Troy? And I just completely...
Well, no, that's it.
Is it? But because...
But last episode we all answered one because it was our first one.
Yep.
But this time round it'll be one person answering the question.
One person in the hot seat, baby.
Yep.
Who's got the dice handy?
I have. I'm ready.
All right. So 1 to 2 is me. 3 to 4, Addison. 5 to 6, Troy.
Okay.
Let's go.
4. So that's me.
That is
you, boy.
Answering the question. All right, now we need a D20. Give me the number, and I will give you the question.
I'll take a 16, please, Leon.
You'll take a 16. Okay. Oh. Okay, this will be a good one considering what we just discussed. Nice, easy one for you. What characters from film, TV, or books would you make an adventuring party with, and what would be their classes?
Oh yeah. What's standard party size? Give me a standard party size. 4, 5?
We'll go with 4.
4. Okay, so I'm going. Let's have to start our fighter. So we're gonna go with our fighter. So we'll go with standard. I'm taking Squell Leonhardt from Final Fantasy VIII as my fighter.
Ooh.
Subclass probably either samurai. Actually, no. Is it Battle Master, the one with all the maneuvers? He'd be a Battle Master because they're specially trained people to fight.
Yep.
I'm taking for my druid. Actually, I'll go next. My druid, I'm taking Pocahontas from Disney, because she'd probably be Circle of Land rather than because she wouldn't really transform. Hers would be more like communicating with nature and using spells. Wizard. Now, I don't know if you know this book, but there is a book series called The Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. I mentioned it in our first episode and why I watch Ack Inc. And there is a character in it called Quoth. Now, Quoth is apparently just the greatest thing that ever was, and he is a wizard. And he would do onomancy if I was allowed to use that as a thing, but if not, he would very much be a war mage.
So we've got your fighter, we've got your druid, you've got your wizard. What's next?
Yep. I need. I'm gonna have to go for it. I'm gonna have to go for a bard, I think.
There he is.
Yeah.
There he is. I'm gonna take a bard. I'm gonna take. I think in the games he's called Dandelion.
Oh yes, Jaskier.
Jaskier from The Witcher as my toss a coin, baby. Because I also just like the fact that he would just be flabbergasted at everything, because that's all he is in The Witcher. He's just confused, like royally all the time. Yeah. Like, how does this work? Like, so yeah, those are the guys I'd take. I would take Squall Leonhardt from Final Fantasy VIII, Pocahontas from Disney, Quoth from the Name of the Wind / the Kingkiller Chronicles, and then Jaskier from The Witcher as my bard. And he would
with
be
myself there as a monk.
With myself there as a monk, yeah. Or if because it's my favourite class, I'm going to throw one in there. If we're taking anyone, we're taking Bruce Lee's character from Enter the Dragon as our monk. Because do not look at the finger, or you will miss all that heavenly glory. Like, that's one of the greatest lines in cinema. Like, yeah, that's my 5. That's my 5.
That's a good
5.
squad.
Solid 5.
That is a good squad.
That is a good squad. I was like waiting for you to like judge me like really heavily. Like I was like,
I will ask. There are some like classes that you've omitted. Is there one class that you've omitted for a particular reason? Like there's not many characters that fit it, or you just don't think that kind of fits with the characters that you've chosen?
I think cleric would be hard to do.
Right.
From a perspective of like characters from games that aren't literally like gods. Like
right. Okay,
you could take things like, I don't know.
I see you've never played Dragon Age.
Yeah, like, and I don't know, like a lot of the characters who were like religious in media and different mediums aren't really going to be adventuring types, are they? They're usually like support characters.
Usually there to be antagonists, really, aren't they? The religious ones.
Yeah, either antagonists or they're there to as like a guide. They're like a quest giver. Like you go to the church to get a fetch quest, sort of thing. Like,
because I think the party that you've chosen, in my mind, is a very campaign versatile party. If you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
Like you could plop that little group that you've chosen in pretty much any setting, and it would sort of wiggle its way in somehow.
Yeah, no, I was like thinking like, how could I get them to fit together? Because I was like, I could go like really wacky at this point, because one of my favorite characters in all of media is Woody from Toy Story. But like, how do you even make that work? Would he be a ranger? Would he get bullseyes like an animal companion? I don't know. So I was just like,
have him as a ranger.
Yeah. Does he get guns? Does he have a snake in his boot? How does this work? Like it got confusing. So I was just like, right, I'll go druid, Pocahontas. Like, yeah. I panicked. I'm sorry.
Well, that's your answer now. You're done.
Yeah.
All right.
Solid squad.
Yeah.
And with that brings us an end to this episode themed around DM preparation. Thank you again for listening. If you do have any questions for the Deck of Many Questions, do please engage with us on social media. Any and all questions that are submitted will be added to the list. We're on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on Instagram, we are on YouTube. So find the links somewhere in the description to this video and come follow us. Come join the conversation. Addison, Troy, anything else you want to say before we go?
other than that, we love all of the people that have been watching it so far and enjoying it, and I hope you enjoy this episode and the next one that we've got rolling out.
I pretty much the same. Like, thanks to everyone who's helped us out, giving us feedback, all that jazz. And that we're just loving this. We're loving having this time to do this. So thanks for humouring us, I guess. So yeah, peace. I wish
so
you love
without
and well.
further ado, we will see you all next week, where we will be talking character creation. So please do tune in for that one. Yes. See you soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Peace.